Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Keys to Consciousness. I have a little surprise for you guys who have been attending this. And Brittany, I see that you're here, and I just want to say I was so happy to see that you had signed up, and thank you so much for being here. So tonight we have a bit of a smaller group, but I, about 10 minutes ago, got this idea that I am going to just wing this tonight. I have a whole PowerPoint planned. I don't even want to go over the PowerPoint tonight. I just feel like there is something more that is calling me to share, and I'm going to lean into that. So, as compared to the regular, where we pull up a PowerPoint, we go over the PowerPoint, and it's more of insight into the profile, right? Or the sequences. We're going to do something, we're going to switch it up, do something a little different. So tonight we are going to talk about a specific gene key, and we're going to break down a specific gene key. And my hope is that you will leave here tonight with not just knowledge of the gene keys, but also some action that's going to come to you here. It's not going to come from me, but it's going to come through you by being here tonight. And you're going to take that and you're going to go back out into the world, and it's going to help make an impact for not only you, but for the other people that you meet and that get to be in your presence. So I decided the gene key that we would talk about, I wanted to look at a gene key that would appeal to everybody, and one that everybody could relate to and get value in if they worked with it. So number 6 is what I chose. And I will say that I was leaning a little bit more towards this key because of where we are at, what has been going on a national level in our society, right? This is an election year. Election years are always, we'll say, exciting. There's a lot to process and a lot that comes up for many people. And it also divides many people. So that is why I felt called to talk about the 6th gene key tonight, because the shadow of this gene key is conflict. And we can all relate to seeing this conflict, right? We can see it from a national level, an individual level, right? When our triggers get activated and our defense mechanisms get sparked, we sometimes lose sense of our body and our emotions, and we have conflict, right, with somebody, whether it be verbal, sometimes it gets physical. And that is what I want to talk about tonight, is what are some tendencies that come up when we are in a shadow state of conflict. So we're just going to fly with this and roll with this and see how it goes. So first, I just kind of want to preface this. I gave you a little preface of why I picked gene key 6. Also, one thing that I think about when it comes to this particular gene key on a national level is our debt, right? We hear about our debt. We're always like printing money, and it's just, oh, print more money, print more money. Well, that has a lot of negative things and impacts on all of us, right, as individuals. But what if we took even a 10th of that amount of money? If we took all of our debt and we took a 10th of it and we used it in a different way to something creative, something giving back, something helping others, imagine the impact that that could make, as compared to us spending and printing more and more money on defense and defending ourselves, right? It's about the boundaries, it's about the borders, it's about so many different things. But really what it comes down to is we as a nation, even, there is this conditioning that we have to defend. And then when we look at us as individuals, right? And this actually our defense mechanisms, they are created in the ages from 7 to 14. So really, when we are navigating puberty, we're still trying to figure out who the hell we are. And now, right, all of these emotions start arising within us, and we're learning how to navigate them. Well, how do we generally learn how to navigate them? By watching those around us, right? Our conditioning. So in order for us to be able to sit with our emotions or reframe our emotions that we grew up seeing from these ages of 7 to 14, we then need to really look at deconditioning and do a really deep dive to be really, really honest with ourselves and say, what work do I need to do here so that I'm not a part of continuing that conflict, right? How do I align with, even if I'm not being shown love, receiving love and giving love? That, my friends, is the beauty of this key. A little bit of the beauty. So, I have my Gene Key book here. It's pretty big. It's not meant to be a book that you read page by page. It's meant to be used more as an oracle, right? You can just flip it open and you can look to see what's the message for today. What does Spirit have for me? Whatever your belief is, right? What does Creator have? God? What insights are waiting for me today? And you flip to a page and you read it, and you all of a sudden get a divine download and you get a message. Well, this book also has, for every single gene key, so there's 64 gene keys, and every single gene key there is, if you look at the shadow, there'll be about 2 pages of a description of the shadow and how that frequency or that vibration can show up in our lives. Then at the end of that excerpt, there is going to be 2 different types of nature. And this really will give us insight into how do we ourselves show up in this shadow. And it's referred to as a repressive nature or a reactive nature. So I wanted to give you guys a little taste of what working with the gene keys looks like and what the book has to offer. So I just want to read the repressive nature and the reactive nature of this 6th gene key. Okay. So I'm going to start with repressive. This one is referred to as being over attentive. So when conflict comes, this is an individual that is in the repressive nature will show up, okay, by being over attentive. So let's take a look at what that means. The repressive nature of the 6th shadow is concerned with maintaining peace between people, regardless of the cost. This pattern is based entirely upon fear and means that these people will totally compromise themselves in order to maintain control of their emotional environment. This is the defense pattern of over-attentiveness. And these are the people pleasers. The repressive nature will sweep conflict under the carpet by adopting any behavior that will keep it at bay. The problem here is that unless conflict is dealt with transparently, it tends to eventually explode. The over-attentive nature is at its core deeply false, which means that it will invoke unconscious distrust in others. Over-attentive natures also tend to draw tactless natures to them, resulting in some spectacularly dysfunctional relationships and family dynamics. When these people finally develop the courage to face conflict, they realize it is never as bad as they feared. Okay, so my hope in reading this is that you, Brittany, I see you, girl. She says me in the chat. And you guys feel free. Tonight is totally different. Use the chat, cheer each other on, share if something comes through to you, because that's the beauty of this wisdom, right? That's the beauty of it, having a community to share, be seen. So I was saying my hope in this is that you guys can maybe see which one you fall towards. It can be, sometimes there is one or the other, and sometimes it's both, right? Sometimes it's just, I can see the reactive nature in me and I can see the repressive. Sometimes, and this is actually one of them, they're exact opposite. So this one, the reactive nature, is tactless. So the other side of this sixth shadow is unable to contain its emotions at all. Lack of emotional tact and timing betrays a low frequency nature that inevitably results in a backlash. These people are always finding themselves in difficult emotional situations, which they make worse by giving vent to their anger, as well as projecting it onto others. They are unable to take responsibility for their own volatile feelings. Their most common defense is to lash out and then storm away. The dilemma of the tactless nature is that it is death to its own lack of tact. These people assume that the problem is always in the other person, which unfortunately earns them no friends and makes it very difficult for others to get close to them. The only kind of person who will remain with such a pattern is the over-attentive nature described above. The secret to breaking this pattern is for reactive natures to take full responsibility for their emotions instead of remaining stuck in a teenager mentality. So I'm going to give you guys a second, just let that sink in. And maybe you knew right away, or maybe it's going to take you a moment to say, am I over attentive? Sometimes. Am I tactless sometimes? Am I 100%, oh my gosh, that's me, tactless? Or am I the people pleaser? This, you guys, is the beauty of the Gene Keys. This is the wisdom right here. There's so many different ways you can use this book. This is just one of them. But being able to identify and say, hey, this is how, when I see conflict, this is how I generally handle it. Hopefully this will give you some insight as well into how that could actually end up stifling you, right? Being a people pleaser, falling into these patterns of doing for other people, right? You're being over attentive to them. When, what is that going to do to you, right? Emotionally, when a storm comes, what is that going to do to you, right? You're probably going to continue to just stuff it down, try to cover it up by doing for others. And then on the other side, the tactless, right? You are not able to see those emotions or really tap into that heart center and be with your emotions. Instead, it's blaming, judging somebody, making them feel less than, right? Neither one of these feel good. Knowing this is the first step in working with the Gene Keys. From there, right, you can allow yourself to embrace this shadow tendency, because we all have shadows. We all get stuck in shadow tendencies. But what we do with it when we realize that we're in a shadow is what helps us to raise our vibration, to have stronger relationships when conflict comes. We're able to communicate. We're able to sit with our emotions. We can cry. We can be vulnerable. Just being vulnerable, right? Imagine if we lived in a world where everybody knew what vulnerability was and what it felt like. and they can express themselves. Shit, we'd probably have everyone walking around naked. One thing that maybe would happen, right? If everybody was just a vulnerable person, they could be seen, they could be heard, everybody could just be themselves. It's a beautiful thing. So I will tell you the another way of working with this, because I feel like I want to make sure it's not just you coming here and we're looking at just the shadows, because sometimes when we look at just the shadows, that can be a little much, right? I want this to be a good experience. You're learning how to use the gene keys. You're getting some insight into using the gene keys. So the gift, right, which is basically a higher revelation or higher frequency, a step in the right direction, because when it comes to the gene keys, there's 3 different levels. The shadow, low vibration, victim mindset. The gift, higher revelation. You're starting to make progress in the right direction, right? And then there's the city, which is your divine essence, right? These are normally people that have been on the path for quite some time that are able to even operate at acidic level. So the gift here, or that higher vibration, is diplomacy. Okay, so what does that mean? Sometimes we see a word and we're like, what does that mean? So one way that you can work with this is you could just Google the word, okay? So if I just pull it up and say, okay, what's the definition of diplomacy? I know you guys can't see my screen right now, but I will read it to you. It's the art and science of maintaining peaceful relationships between nations, groups, and individuals. Boom. You already, right, can get some insight into, well, what do I need to do? I want to move to the diplomatic state, right? I don't want to stay here stuck in conflict. That doesn't do anything for me, for the world, for the other person I'm having conflict with, right? So that's another way that you can do it, is you can simply look at the next level of vibration or that gift and Google the word. Okay. So finding peace, right? And aligning with peace. Maybe you stop, you notice, and you sit with saying, hey, I'm being a part of this conflict right now. So once you recognize it, just sitting with that it doesn't have to mean anything. Just give yourself a second and breathe, connect with yourself. Then go back to the other person and try again, right? Give love even when you're not receiving love. That is what's going to make an impact. That is what's going to change humanity. That is why we do this work. Okay, let's do 822. So we're gonna look at another one, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So I won't go into as much detail because of time, but this one, just when I say what the shadow is, everyone's gonna totally relate. We're all gonna know what it feels like to be in this shadow, because it is stress. And stress, right, we all experience probably every single day of our lives. There's at least one moment where it is a high stressful situation, whether it be your kids are having a tantrum, something just came up at work and there's a big problem that you have to deal with. You are driving and all of a sudden your car, something goes weird and you get blinking lights, right? Stress meets us all the time. So let's take a look at the repressive and the reactive nature when it comes to stress. So this is gene key 52. And the gift on this one, I'm going to actually just tell you this one now, is restraint. Okay, so when we're in a stressful situation, right, or we are recognizing the shadow creeping up on us, and we are starting to maybe go into honking our horn at somebody, right? We're saying unkind words back because we're in a defensive state, right? We can sit and we can recognize and we can restrain ourselves for a second. Okay, that alone, give us a second to process what is going on around us, and always breathe, right? Breathing always brings us back. So, okay, repressive nature on this one is stuck. That is the word used to describe it. So the repressive nature tends to physically, emotionally, and mentally collapse under the pressure of the stress created by the 50-second shadow. These people never really get off the ground. The gift of restraint remains locked in the extreme shadow manifestation and leads to a deep feeling of being stuck. These feelings can so pervade the body that one enters deep states of depression and apathy. As these people give up on themselves, the adrenal system can actually be impacted, leaving them physically impeded in some way. And if you guys don't know, like your adrenal glands, right? They are, I like to think of them as like the thyroid is like a powerhouse, right, of our bodies, but our adrenal glands help support them. So if when we experience stress, our adrenal glands are immediately impacted and they are not able, right, to help our thyroid work properly the way that it should. So our adrenal glands are really, really important. And one of the number one things in our bodies, stress impacts all of our body, but they're one that are severely impacted when we're in a stressful state. And a stressful state on our adrenal glands over time, that's where we can start to see that dis-ease, right? Or that stress come to life because it is internally manifesting in our body. So stress is a really big one to work with. So once one has sunk into these states, it can be very difficult to escape. One of the only means of lifting oneself free of such a state is to find a way to be of service to others. There is a deep genetic need in the 50-second gift to help others, and when this urge is engaged, gradually one can find one's life force returning. Okay, so that's repressive. Reactive is restless. These are people who are unable to sit still. Reactive natures, by their nature, try to escape their fear through activity. However, these people mask their fear through projecting their frustration and anger onto others. The restless aspect of stress is based upon overstimulation of the adrenal glands, producing more energy than one needs. However, the consistent secretion of adrenaline into the body actually causes great damage over time. Thus, these people often burn themselves out in life. The secret for such people is to see through their own mental dynamic and discover the deep fear that drives them. By confronting and embracing this fear, they will gradually erode its hold over them and learn to activate the gift of restraint. Okay, so maybe the same thing, I would give you a moment to say, when stress shows up, are you usually one that tends to be in the repressive nature, where you're stuck? The reactive nature, that you're restless? This is one that I think some people can really lean towards both, right? There may be points in our lives where we feel like we're not able to get off the ground, right? We feel like we're stuck. Or there may be times where it's, okay, as compared to dealing with how I'm feeling, right? I'm going to go, 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 go. Even if I'm home, it's what needs to be done in this room that I'm sitting in. What your mind is always going. It's always restless about what's the next thing. So it could just be that you're moving, or it could just be that mentally it's go, 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 go. One way to actually quickly get out of that, because truth be told, I have this gene key in my profile. So this is one that I really go back to and revisit and say, okay, what can I do? But humming, or there's the Om. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Om, but if you just hum or you Om, so that would look like or Om, Om. That's a really quick way to stop the mental restlessness and just calm your mind. Because realistically, if you try this, you will notice really quickly, like you can't really think when you're doing either of those. So humming or the Om, whichever feels best to you, right? Maybe you want to hum your favorite song. Just start humming, and it will help turn that mental wave off. So, okay, well, I wanted to leave you guys with this and to kind of see what the Gene Keys is like, working with it, what you can get from the book. There's so much more that you can discover, but I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into yourselves. And tonight I want to leave you with doing something good in the world this week and the next week, right? The next 2 weeks. Sit down, be intentional with it. Our world really needs this right now. We need all of us to be aligning with letting this conflict resolve, but bringing the good. And I promise one of us can make an impact. It could be something as simple as opening the door for somebody, right? Maybe you see somebody that's upset and struggling and going over and offering them a kind word. It can be something as simple as that. But that would be what I want to leave you with tonight is go out, be a light to somebody, be a light in the world, and let's together make an impact on an individual level where then we can see our impact and feel that on humanity, because we together, us doing this, creates a collective energy. And we're not the only ones, right? There's a lot more people out there doing this. So let's align with that. I love you guys all so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight and for supporting me. Mwah! I hope you guys have a fabulous evening. And if you want to share what you end up doing, I would love to hear how you decided to make an impact. That would just light up my fucking day. So please share that with me. Love you guys.